SpaceX has become a symbol of cutting-edge innovation in aerospace. With its reusable launch systems, advanced materials, and rapid iteration cycles, the company has redefined what is possible. And yet, its most ambitious platform, Starship, has been plagued by repeated catastrophic failures, euphemistically dubbed rapid unscheduled disassemblies. Engines fail mid-flight. Structural vibrations spiral into uncontrolled resonance. Entire systems fall apart despite passing all pre-flight checks. These aren't minor oversights or rogue malfunctions. These failures emerge in systems where every component operated within parameters. And that is precisely the problem. Modern rockets are not single mechanisms. They are deeply integrated feedback structures, with interdependencies between engine timing, fuel flow, structural harmonics, control algorithms, and thermal dynamics. Each subsystem may be calibrated, tested, and verified. But when combined, they exhibit emergent behaviors, particularly resonances and phase relationships, that cannot be understood or prevented by examining any component in isolation. What looks like a perfect rocket on paper becomes, in practice, a symphony of minute misalignments, subtle phase shifts, vibration amplifications, and propagation errors that reinforce each other until the vehicle tears itself apart. Faced with these mysterious failures, the reflex of the engineering establishment is to respond the way it always has: tighten the tolerances. If the margin for harmonic distortion was 1/100%, reduce it to 1,000%. If the propellant feed rate varies by 1/10%, cut that in half. The assumption is simple: more precision equals more stability. But this approach rests on a quiet assumption that's almost never examined: that more decimal precision means better accuracy. This belief drives the entire field of digital engineering. High-resolution simulations, extended floating-point arithmetic, tighter PID control loops, finer-grained calibration protocols, billions are poured into these measures. And to some extent, they work. Rockets are getting better, more reliable, until they suddenly aren't. Because even after all that tightening, the failures still happen. That's because decimal precision is not the same as mathematical fidelity. When engineers encode irrational values like pi or compute sine waves using lookup tables or polynomial approximations, they are already starting from a loss. The system may simulate a smooth curve or a perfect ratio, but under the hood it's composed of discrete, rational approximations. These errors may be tiny in any one computation, but in a system of thousands of interrelated operations and feedback loops, those errors accumulate, interact, and amplify. The system looks deterministic but behaves chaotically. Here lies the quiet truth. The traditional digital mathematical framework used in aerospace engineering, indeed, in nearly all engineering, is built on approximations. When irrational or transcendental numbers are encoded in digital systems, they are necessarily truncated. Pi becomes 3.14159, but never pi. Sine functions are interpolated, not computed. Rotations are simulated via piecewise approximations. Every function you think you know as an engineer, every wave, phase, derivative, and integral, is being sliced up and reassembled with lossy building blocks. And those building blocks, no matter how tightly controlled, cannot capture the underlying truth of continuous systems. Worse, these approximations often enter systems that are dynamically harmonic. That is, they depend not just on the magnitude of values, but on phase, rhythm, and proportion. These are the systems most vulnerable to resonance-induced failure, precisely the kind of failure seen in repeated rocket disintegrations. The solution isn't better decimal arithmetic. It's moving away from decimal arithmetic altogether. We need a return to ratio-based computation, a foundational rethink where relationships are expressed in exact proportions, rather than finite approximations. A sine wave should not be a polynomial approximation over a finite domain, but a structural expression of an underlying ratio between circular motion and time. When systems are designed and simulated in terms of rational relationships, integer ratios, symbolic harmonics, phase-locked feedbacks, they retain coherence across scales. They don't degrade over time. They don't amplify error with every iteration. They resonate predictably. This isn't just an optimization, it's a revolution. This is a call to rebuild our foundations. SpaceX is not failing because its engineers are careless. On the contrary, they are among the most advanced technical minds on the planet. They are failing because they are trapped within a mathematical paradigm that cannot model the very systems they are building. And the cost is staggering. Billions in lost hardware, delayed missions, shattered timelines, not to mention the risk to future human passengers. This is a call to action. We must rethink the mathematics of engineering. Stop pretending that more digits equals more truth. Start modeling systems in terms of their actual structural relationships, not approximations. Build computational frameworks that handle rational ratios, not decimal surrogates. Stop tolerating harmonic breakdowns as acceptable anomalies. Begin treating them as symptoms of a foundational mismatch between digital abstraction and physical reality. Until we do, our rockets will keep falling apart, quietly, catastrophically, predictably. Let this be the last warning from the sky.